Welcome to episode 91 of Cameron Sports Podcast. It's your host here, Cameron Lindsay. Back with another episode. Today's episode, I'm going to be making my 2025 NFL draft grades. I do these grades based off of each team fulfill their draft needs, based off the fit of that team. Do I think the players fit that team/organization going forward for the 2025 season and going forward? So, yeah, let's get right into it. Like I said, the NFL draft was last week. I'm doing my draft grades now, and let's get right into it. Starting off with the Tennessee Titans. The Tennessee Titans had the first overall pick. Their biggest needs were quarterback, edge rusher, wide receiver, linebacker, and safety. The first pick, the Tennessee Titans had selected Cam Ward out of Miami, number overall. Most of us suspected that. I had him number one in my mock draft 2.0. Like I said, I like the pick. I would have went Shedeur, but I'm going to get into that. Shedeur's draft stock a little bit later. The next pick, they went defensive end with I'm not pronouncing his name right. Olafemi Oladejo, defensive end / linebacker out of UCLA with the 52 overall pick. Then it went Chamir Dyke, wide receiver out of Florida. Jackson Slater, guard out of Sacramento State. Marcus Harris, corner out of Cal. Khalil Mullings, running back out of Michigan. Kevin Winston, safety out of Penn State. Gunnar Helm, tight end out of Texas. I gave Tennessee a B-. Like I said, of course, they got the biggest need, which was quarterback. You know, they got the other needs was receiver, edge, linebacker, safety, but nothing really too crazy. So I think B- is a fair grade for the Tennessee Titans. Yeah. Next up, we got the Jacksonville Jaguars. They originally had the 5th overall pick, but they traded with the Cleveland Browns, who decided to trade back, and they got a haul of picks for next year and going forward. And the Jacksonville Jaguars moved up to 2nd overall. They ended up selecting wide receivers / cornerback Travis Hunter out of Colorado with the 2nd overall pick. The Jacksonville Jaguars' biggest needs were defensive line, corner, safety, offensive line, and wide receiver. And like I said, Travis is a player who plays both sides of the ball, Heisman Trophy winner. So he's one player that fits two real big needs that the Jacksonville Jaguars need. The next pick, they selected Caleb Ransall, cornerback out of Tulane. Wyatt Mullum, guard out of West Virginia. Jax Kaiser, linebacker out of Notre Dame. Jalen McLeod, linebacker Auburn. Ryan Lane, safety out of out of Navy. Jonna Monahan, center out of USC. LaQuint Allen, running back out of Syracuse. I gave Jacksonville an A+, especially with the Travis Hunter pick. That, like I said, Travis fits 2 needs out 3, 4, 5. Out of these 5 biggest needs the Jacksonville Jaguars needs, he fits 2 of them. So with him alone, and they also selected another corner out of Tulane. That's, like I said, again, they got another need. And plus and it's been reported based off his press conference introduction after he got drafted, the Jacksonville Jaguars general manager said they're going to play Travis primarily at receiver and then, slowly get him in on the defensive side of the ball. So with him, Travis Hunter, and Brian Thomas, their first-round pick out of last year, who looked like a top 10 receiver last year in the league, they arguably have the best young receiver duo in the league. Arguably. And there's no excuse for Trevor Lawrence. You're going to have 2 explosive playmakers on the offensive side of the ball with Travis Hunter and Brian Thomas Jr. But I give him an A+, especially with Travis Hunter alone, and he also did get some other good, decent needs in the draft. Next up, we got the New York Giants, who had the 3rd overall pick. And their first pick was Abdul Carter, defensive end out of Penn State. The next was also in the first round. They traded up in the first round with the 25th pick and selected Jackson Dart, quarterback out of Ole Miss. Now, they did feel they needed a quarterback, but I'm getting more into that a little bit. Next up was Darius Alexander, defensive tackle out of Toledo. Cam Scatterboo, running back out of Arizona State. Marcus McBow, offensive tackle, Purdue. Thomas Feederman, tight end, Nebraska. And Corey Black, cornerback out of Oklahoma State. Now, the Giants' biggest needs were quarterback, O-line, defensive line, linebacker, and receiver. They pretty much got just about everything except for receiver. They didn't get a linebacker, but they did get a very good player in Cam Scatterboo in the 4th round. I love that pick. I love the Abdul Carter pick. Jackson Dart pick, I like it. It's just, I would have went Shedeur. There's no way I just don't think Jackson Dart is bigger than Shedeur. Watching him play at Ole Miss, okay, 2nd round, okay. But there's nothing that showed me like, oh wow, Jackson Dart's a 1st round pick. And I just really hope this does not blow in the Giants' face. Like when they selected Daniel Jones a couple years ago. Guess look what happened with that. Blew up in their face. They paid him a contract. A couple years later after that, he's gone. So I really hope this don't come to bite them in the butt, even though I kind of do it does, because they tried Shedeur, and they might have missed out on the franchise guy right there if Jackson Dart doesn't pan out. But I give the Giants an A-. Like I said, they did get the most important position in the draft. They got their quarterback. They got a superstar edge rusher. They did also get a pretty underrated running back in Cam Scatterboo. So I give them an A-. I think they did have a really good draft, regardless of. I think they should have grabbed Shedeur with this pick, with their second 1st round pick when they traded back in the 1st round. I think they should have grabbed Shedeur, but Jackson Dart's not a bad player. It's not like he can't play. He's no scrub. He can play. I just would not have him over Shedeur. Next up, the New England Patriots. Their biggest needs: offensive line, D-line, receiver, running back, tight end. The first pick, they were selected Will Campbell, offensive tackle, LSU. Then went Travion Henderson, running back, Ohio State. Kyle Williams, wide receiver out of Washington State. Jared Wilson, center out of Georgia. Craig Woodson, safety out of Cal. Joshua Farmer, defensive tackle out of Florida State. Brandon Swenson, defensive end out of LSU. Andreas Borgales, kicker out of Miami. Marcus Bryant, offensive tackle, Missouri. Kobe Minor, defensive back out of Memphis, with the last pick in the draft. I give the Patriots an A. Like I said, they got the offensive line to protect their franchise quarterback in Drake May. They got a very explosive running back in Travion Henderson, who's the best pass protecting running back in the whole draft. Runs a 4.4 40, very explosive. He can also run between the tackles. So I think that I love this pick for the Patriots. So they got another offensive weapon for Drake May. They got a really good offensive lineman to help protect them. I like that pick for New England. I give them an A for their draft. Next up, got the Cleveland Browns, who had the 2nd overall pick but traded back with the Jacksonville Jaguars. And they ended up selecting Mason Graham, defensive tackle out of Michigan, with the 5th overall pick. Then they went Carson Schwarzenegger, linebacker out of UCLA. Quinshon Judkins, running back out of Ohio State, also in the 2nd round. Then they selected Harlow Fun, tight end out of Bowling Green. I like that pick. He's a pretty good player. Dylan Gabriel, quarterback out of Oregon. Dylan Sampson, running back out of Tennessee. I like that pick also. And the pick I love the most, Shedeur Sanders, quarterback out of Colorado. I give the Cleveland Browns a C+. Mainly, like I said, they did quarterback. Biggest needs were quarterback, offensive line, edge, running back, and receiver. Reason I give them a C+, like I said, because I know the quarterback was the biggest need, but selecting Dylan Gabriel over Shedeur, it doesn't make any sense to me. Trading back when you could have had Travis Hunter, I penalized them for that. I like Mason Graham, but I would have went Travis Hunter. There's no way. You got such a bad organization. The Cleveland Browns as an organization is bad. You need something that's going to be the face of your franchise. I mean, right now it's Myles Garrett, but Get somebody like a Travis Hunter that can really go a long way. But I think that, I don't know. Part of me feel like they're trying to get better, but they're also trying to be bad to the where point where they potentially could still get the number one overall pick next year and maybe get an Arch Manning. And if I'm Arch Manning, I don't want to go to Cleveland, but I'm giving them a C plus, especially drafting Shedeur that late. I do like the Quinshon Judkins and Dylan Sampson running backs out of Ohio State and Tennessee. I love them two running backs. I like Mason Graham, but I just don't think they needed a defensive tackle that badly. So, yeah. Next up, got the Las Vegas Raiders. They selected Ashton Jeanty with their first pick, the 6th overall pick. They went Jack Betch, wide receiver at TCU. I love that pick. He's an MVP from the Senior Bowl. So that's a very great pick for the Las Vegas Raiders. Another weapon for Geno Smith. Darren Porter, cornerback at Ohio State. Caleb Rogers, guard out of Texas Tech. Charles Grant, offensive tackle out of William and Mary. Dante Thornton, wide receiver out of Tennessee. Tonka Hemingway, defensive tackle, South Carolina. J.J. Hughes, defensive tackle, Ole Miss. Tommy Mellick, quarterback of Montana State. Cam Miller, quarterback of North Dakota State. Cody Lemonberg, linebacker, Minnesota. I give the Raiders a B+. Their biggest needs in this draft were running back, receiver, corner, offensive line, and linebacker. So they pretty much did fulfill all their needs. I don't think selecting two quarterbacks really benefits them. But Ashton Jeanty and Jack Betch, their first two picks, I really love the most. And I think those two players are going to really be able to contribute to that offense, helping Geno Smith. You already got Brock Bowers. You got Jacoby Myers. Now you got Ashton Jeanty. And you got Jack Betch. I love that combination for the Raiders going forward. So I give them a B+. Next up, got the New York Jets. Their biggest needs, offensive line, receiver, tight end, safety, defensive line. Their first pick, they went Armand Menabu, offensive tackle out of Missouri with the 7th overall pick. Then second round, they went Mason Taylor, tight end out of LSU. Azareye'h Thomas, cornerback, Florida State. Arian Smith, wide receiver, Georgia. Malachi Moore, safety out of Alabama. Francisco Mongo, linebacker out of Miami. Tyler Barn, defensive end out of Miami. I get the Jets an A. Like I said, their biggest needs were offensive line. Again, offensive line, receiver, tight end, safety, D-line. I think the Jets did really fine. They got offensive linemen to protect Justin Fields. They got him another weapon in Mason Taylor. They also selected Azareye'h Thomas. He could possibly be on the opposite side of Sauce Gardner. I like Malachi Moore from Alabama. I like Mongo from Miami, my bad. Arian Smith from Georgia, decent player. So I think the Jets had a pretty good draft. I give them an A. Carolina Panthers. Their first pick, wide receiver Terra McMillan out of Arizona with the 8th overall pick. They went Nick Scorton, defensive end out of Texas A&M. Prince Uma Maryland, I can't pronounce his name, defensive end out of Ole Miss. Trevor Etienne, running back out of Georgia. Lathan Ramson, safety out of Ohio State. Cam Jackson, defensive tackle out of Florida. Mitchell Evans, tight end out of Notre Dame. And Jimmy Horn Jr., wide receiver out of Colorado. I give the Panthers an A-. Their biggest needs were edge, safety, corner, receiver, and defensive line. They got a really good receiver, McMillan. They got an underrated receiver in Jimmy Horn Jr. They got a pretty decent good player in Nick Scorton, defensive end out of Texas A&M, who probably could have been a first-round pick. So, and I love the Trevor Etienne pick, our running back out of Georgia, another weapon. So it's like they're helping their defense. They help the defense in this draft a little bit, and they also help Bryce Young with some more weapons. I said in my mock draft 1.0, I went to Terra McMillan because even though most mock drafts, in my 2.0, I did change it to because I did that draft based off of what I think the Panthers might do. I did the 1.0 based off of what they think they should do. So my 1.0 mock draft, I think they should have got Bryce Young another weapon. And that's what they did. I know some people say McMillan's not the fastest receiver, but at that size, being almost 6'5", he doesn't need to be a speed demon. That's a big body target. Bryce Young's not the biggest quarterback in the world, so giving him a big target like McMillan, that's going to help a lot. And you got Xavier Leggett, McMillan, that two young receivers. I think watch out for the Panthers next season. Especially in that division, the NFC South, the Panthers are gonna be better. Look out for that. I get the Panthers at A-. Next up, the New Orleans Saints. Their biggest needs were quarterback, corner, offensive line, wide receiver, defensive line. With their first pick, they went Kelvin Banks, offensive tackle, Texas. They went Tyler Shough, quarterback out of Louisville in the second round. And then Vernon Brochton, defensive tackle out of Texas. Jonas Sanker, safety out of Virginia. Danny Sustenman, linebacker, Oklahoma. Quincy Riley, cornerback out of Louisville. Devin Neal, running back out of Kansas. Malaka Montovo, tight end out of UCLA. Fondell Diggs, defensive end out of Syracuse. I give the Saints a C-. Like I said, they could have went Shedeur with their first pick. You need a quarterback. Derek Carr most likely will not be able to play. He's gonna pretty much. It's been reported either he's gonna miss majority of the season or he's gonna miss all of the season. And Kellen Moore, you being a first-year head coach, you need a quarterback. Get a Shedeur. He went. I don't know why so many people were so high praise on Tyler Shough. He been to 4 different schools. Been in college football for 7 years. He couldn't win a job at Oregon. He won all that great at Texas Tech. In Louisville, he was okay, but nothing real crazy. So if he don't, I hope it works. But if he don't pan out at the Saints, it's gonna really hurt the Saints next season because you could have had Shedeur. But you passed up on him to get Tyler Shough. Kelvin Banks is a good player, so that could pan out. But other than that, yeah, I give the Saints a C-. Next up, got the Chicago Bears. 10th overall, they needed offensive line, defensive line, running back, safety, tight end. They went Colston Loveland, tight end out of Michigan. Luther Burden, wide receiver out of Missouri. Ozzie Trapill, offensive tackle, Boston College. Shamari Stewart, defensive tackle, Texas A&M. Ruben Hypolite, linebacker out of Maryland. Zai Fraser, cornerback at UTSA. Luke Newman, guard, Michigan State. Kyle Mungul, running back out of Rutgers. Sorry if I said that wrong. I give the Bears an A. I love their picks. Colston Loveland, Luther Burden. So there's no excuse for Caleb Williams next year. You got Colston Loveland, Luther Burden, DJ Moore, Roma Duze, Kmet. The Bears are going to have a lot of weapons on offense. So I give them definitely an A in this draft. Next up, got the San Francisco 49ers. Their needs were defensive line, edge, offensive line, running back, and corner. Their first pick, they went Mikael Williams, defensive end out of Georgia. Went Alfred Collins, defensive tackle out of Texas. Nick Martin, linebacker out of Oklahoma State. Upton Stout, cornerback, Western Kentucky. C.J. West, defensive tackle, Indiana. Jordan Watkins, wide receiver, Ole Miss. Jordan James, running back out of Oregon. Marcuse Single, safety, Kansas State. Curtis Rook, quarterback out of Indiana. Connor Colby, guard, Iowa. Junior Burgeon, wide receiver, Montana. I get the 49ers an A-. Like I said, they did strengthen their defense with Mikael Williams, Alfred Collins. They needed a linebacker. They got a corner. So I think the 49ers did pretty decent, pretty good. I give them an A-. I think they did pretty good in the NFL draft. They also got the Dallas Cowboys. They needed a receiver, running back, corner, linebacker, defensive line. They went Tyler Booker, guard, Alabama. Donovan Azaraku, defensive end, Boston College. Shavon Ravel, cornerback, Eastern Carolina. Jaden Blue, running back out of Texas. Shamari James, linebacker out of Florida. Johnny Cornelius, offensive tackle, Oregon. Jay Tatoa, defensive tackle, UCLA. Phil Malfa, running back out of Clemson. And Tommy Kingsbestill, defensive tackle, Maryland. I said that wrong, sorry. I get the Cowboys a B+. They had a good draft. Like I said, they got they need the offensive line. They had a future Hall of Famer retire. They got somebody, Donovan Ezraku, who could be the opposite end on the other side from Micah Parsons. So they'll help their defensive out. They did grab 2 underrated good running backs, and Jaden Blue, a speedster from Texas. Phil Malfa, a really good running back from Clemson. Even though I think they needed a receiver, but hopefully they'll end up getting one in free agency during this off season before it ends. But I give them a B plus. Next up, got the Miami Dolphins. Their biggest need: offensive line, defensive line, corner, safety, and tight end. Their first pick, they went Kenneth Grant, defensive tackle, Michigan. Jonah Savainet, guard, Arizona. Jason Marshall, cornerback out of Florida. Dante Trader, safety out of Maryland. Ollie Gordon, running back out of Oklahoma State. Quinn Ewers, quarterback out of Texas. Zeke Biggers, defensive tackle, Georgia Tech. I give the Dolphins a C. Like I said, Kenneth Grant pick is a good one. Maybe I want to draft him that high, but I don't know why they grab Quinn Ewers. I don't see how he kind of fits. I don't see how Ollie Gordon fits. He's more of a physical running back. He's not a speedster because to me the Dolphins offense with Waddle and Hill, it's more of a fast-paced speed offense. Ollie Gordon, I don't know if he fits that to a degree. But I give them a C. Next up, we got the Indianapolis Colts. Their biggest need: tight end, offensive line, linebacker, edge, and running back. They got Tyler Warner, tight end out of Penn State. JT Tumalo, defensive end out of Ohio State. Jalen Travis, offensive tackle, Iowa State. DJ Giddens, running back out of Kansas State. Justin Wally, cornerback out of Minnesota. Riley Leonard, quarterback out of Notre Dame. Tim Smith, defensive tackle, Alabama. Hunter Waller, safety / linebacker out of Wisconsin. I gave Indy a B+. I think the Colts had a pretty good draft, especially with Tyler Warren, one of the best arguably pretty much the best tight end in this draft, in my opinion. You can go him or Colston Loveland. But I think the Colts did really good in the draft. Next up with the Atlanta Falcons, the biggest needs were edge, defensive line, corner, offensive line, safety. The first pick was Jalen Walker, linebacker / DN out of Georgia. James Pierce, also when they traded back in the traded back in the first round, and they selected James Pierce, defensive end out of Tennessee. Xavier Watts, safety out of Notre Dame. Jack Nelson, offensive tackle, Wisconsin. Billy Bowman, safety out of Oklahoma. They needed help on the defensive line. They got two young pass rushers in Jalen Walker and James Pierce. I love that combination. They needed a safety. They got two. Xavier Watts from Notre Dame. He's a really good player. I love him. Billy Bowman, safety out of Oklahoma. And he grabbed an offensive tackle. So I think the Falcons did pretty well. I give them a B. Like I said, this is a pretty solid draft. I definitely give the Falcons a B. I know some draft grades don't love the Falcons picks because it's like a gamble a little bit because Jalen Walker, I think, really good player. James Pierce Jr. is like, will he pan out? Will he won't? So, but I think I love these two picks by the Atlanta Falcons. Next up, got the Arizona Cardinals. Their biggest needs: offensive line, receiver, edge, D-line, corner. They went Walter Nolan, defensive tackle, Ole Miss. Will Johnson, cornerback out of Michigan. Jordan Birch, defensive end, linebacker out of Oregon. Cody Simon, linebacker, Ohio State. Denzel Burke, cornerback out of Ohio State. Hayden Connor, offensive lineman, Texas. Keaton Crawford, safety out of Nevada. I give the Cardinals a B. I would have went receiver. I thought they would have I thought they would have selected the receiver out of Texas, but obviously they did not. But I'm not mad. I thought it would have meant Matthew Golden with this pick, but Walter Nolan, that does help. I love the Will Johnson pick in the second round. So the Cardinals pretty much went defense this whole draft. So they're trying to help Kyler Murray out a little bit, especially on defense, to get them a B. Next up, got the Cincinnati Bengals. They need an edge, safety, linebacker, offensive line, and corner. I give them a C-. They selected Shamari Stewart, defensive end out of Texas A&M. Demetrius Knight, linebacker out of South Carolina. Dylan Fairchild, guard, Georgia. Barrett Carter, linebacker, Clemson. Jalen Rivers, offensive tackle, Miami. Taj Brooks, running back out of Texas Tech. Like I said, Shamari Stewart, I love him in the Senior Bowl. The draft, he's about 6'6", 260 plus pounds, but he did only have 4 sacks in 3 years total, like combined. And yeah, sacks are not everything, but it's also been reported his pass rush win rate wasn't that high. So it's like a Can he live up to his potential or won't he? So it's kind of a hit or miss. But I give the Bengals a C minus. They helped them. They helped themselves a little bit, but not a whole lot in this draft. Next up, got the Seattle Seahawks. Their biggest need: offensive line, receiver, corner, safety, D line. They selected Gray Zabel, guard, North Dakota State. Nick Emirari, safety out of South Carolina. Elijah Arroyo, tight end, Miami. Jalen Milroe, quarterback out of Alabama. Riley Mills, defensive tackle, Notre Dame. Torrey Horton, wide receiver, Colorado State. Robbie Oates, tight end, Alabama. Bryce Caladu, guard, Kansas. Damian Martinez, running back, Miami. Mason Richmond, offensive tackle, Iowa. Ricky White, receiver out of UNLV. I give the Seahawks a B minus. I love the Nick Emirari pick. Their first round pick, I'm not that in love with, but then that's what they needed. Help on the interior offensive line. But I love the Nick Emirari pick. I feel like he's gonna be like a Cam Chancellor type of player for the Seahawks, like they had back in the Legion of Boom days. Next up, we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Their biggest needs: linebacker, corner, edge, safety, offensive line. They went Emeka Ibuka, wide receiver, Ohio State. Benjamin Morris, cornerback, Notre Dame. Jacob Parrish, cornerback out of Kansas State. David Walker, defensive end, Central Arkansas. Elijah Roberts, defensive end, SMU. Tez Johnson, wide receiver out of Oregon. I give the Buccaneers a B minus. Good, solid draft. Like I said, help also give Baker Mayfield a couple weapons. Help their defense get a little bit younger. I give them B minus. The Denver Broncos, biggest needs: running back, receiver, corner, tight end, defensive line. They went Jahade Barron, cornerback out of Texas. R.J. Harvey, running back out of UCF. Pat Bryant, wide receiver out of Illinois. Salve Van Jones, defensive end, LSU. Q Robinson, defensive end, Alabama. Caleb Larner, tight end, Utah. I give the Broncos a B. I thought they would have went Amari Hampton, but Jahade Barron is a great pick. Like I said, he's going to be on the opposite side. Pat Surtain, who the reigning defensive player of the year, the best cornerback in the NFL. So the Broncos, their defense is going to be very good next year. It's going to be hard to score on them, especially in that stadium in Mile High. But yeah, I give them a B. Next, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Biggest need: quarterback, running back, D-line, wide receiver, O-line. They went Derek Harmon, defensive tackle out of Oregon. Caleb Johnson, running back out of Iowa. Jack Sawyer, defensive end, Ohio State. Yala Black, defensive tackle, Iowa. Will Howard, quarterback, Ohio State. Carson Bruner, linebacker, Washington. Dante Kent, cornerback, Central Michigan. I give them a B plus. I love the Jack Sawyer pick. Derek Harmon is a pretty good pick. They needed a running back. They got that. Needed help on defensive at linebacker, corner. They got that. The Will Howard pick is pretty solid. I would have went Shador at quarterback, but it is what it is. I give the Steelers a B plus. Next up, my Los Angeles Chargers. Their biggest needs were tight end, receiver, D-line, running back, and edge. The first round pick, they selected Amari Hampton, running back out of North Carolina. Trey Harris, wide receiver out of Ole Miss. Jeremy Caldwell, defensive tackle, Oregon. Kyle Kennard, defensive end, South Carolina. Keandre Lambert-Smith, wide receiver out of Auburn. Arnday Gateson, tight end out of Syracuse. Bryson Taylor, offensive tackle, Pitt. R.J. Mickens, safety out of Clemson. And Tyreek Bridges, cornerback, Florida. I give my Chargers an A. We filled almost every need we needed: tight end, receiver, D-line, running back, edge. We filled all our needs. We got Justin Herbert some weapons. We finally have a good running back that we haven't had in a long time. We got some tall receivers. Trey Harris may not be fast, but I love his game. Keandre Lambert-Smith is fast, good route runner. I love that. A big tight end from Syracuse. I love that. I give my Chargers an A. Next up, we got the Green Bay Packers. Biggest need: corner, receiver, edge, D-line, offensive line. They selected Matthew Golden, receiver out of Texas. Anthony Bilton, offensive tackle, North Carolina State. Savon Williams, wide receiver out of TCU. Barron Sorrell, defensive end out of Texas. Connell Oliver, defensive end out of Oklahoma State. Warren Brinson, defensive tackle out of Georgia. Micah Robinson, cornerback out of Tulane. John Williams, guard out of Cincinnati. I give the Packers a B. I love the Matthew Golden pick. I was shocked they went receiver. Like I said, this is the first time they selected a receiver in the first round in a long, long time. But I give the Packers a solid B. I think they had a pretty good draft. Next up, Minnesota Vikings. Their biggest needs: corner, offensive line, safety, linebacker, D-line. They went Donovan Jackson, offensive line, Ohio State. Ty Felton, wide receiver out of Maryland. Tyron Ingram Dawkins, defensive tackle, Georgia. Kobe King, linebacker, Penn State. Gavin Bartholomew, tight end out of Pitt. I give the Vikings a C minus. Like I said, didn't have a really good draft, but if they do already have a good roster, they had a great free agency. So I don't think it really kind of matters that much. Maybe the future wise, like going forward, it kind of matters. But yeah, I give them a C minus. It really wasn't crazy. Next up, got the Houston Texans. Their biggest needs were offensive line, receiver, D-line, safety. They went Jalen Noel, wide receiver, in the second round because they traded their first round pick. Jaden Higgins, another receiver from Iowa State. Arante Arazer, offensive tackle, Minnesota. Kayante Hamilton, defensive tackle, Rutgers. Jalen Reed, safety out of Penn State. Woody Marks, running back out of USC. Graham Mertz, quarterback out of Florida. Luke Lasche, tight end out of Iowa. I give the Texans a C+. I love the fact they got some more weapons for C.J. Stroud. But the rest of these picks, I feel like Graham Mertz, I don't see how he fits the Houston Texans. But I give them C+. These picks weren't really nothing crazy about besides their first two picks from the receivers from Iowa State. Next up, the Los Angeles Rams. Linebacker, corner, offensive line, tight end, receiver were their biggest needs. They selected Terrence Ferguson, tight end out of Oregon. Hosea Stewart, defensive end, Michigan. Jarquez Hunter, running back out of Auburn. Ty Hamilton, defensive end, defensive tackle, Ohio State. Chris Paul, linebacker out of Ole Miss. Kanate Munfield, wide receiver out of Pitt. I give the Rams a C-. Nothing real crazy with their picks, but I do love the Terrence Ferguson pick from Oregon, and I like the Jarquez Hunter pick from Auburn. Like I said, helping Matthew Stafford out, giving them some weapons that they already have with the Rams. Next up, got the Baltimore Ravens. Their biggest need, offensive line, corner, safety, D-line, edge. They selected Malachi Starks in the first round, safety out of Georgia. Mike Green, I love this pick, defensive end out of Marshall in the second round. Emory Jones, offensive tackle, LSU. Teddy Bunchman, linebacker, Cal. Carson Vincent, offensive tackle, Alabama. Ballahan Kane, cornerback, Western Michigan. Robert Landry Bean, cornerback out of Rutgers. LaJohntay Western, wide receiver out of Colorado. And Garrett Dillinger, guard, LSU. I give the Ravens an A. I love the Malachi Starks pick. I love the Mike Green pick. Two young players that are going to help their defense immediately. Mike Green, a phenomenal player for the Senior Bowl. If you watch my past episodes, I talked about Mike Green a little bit. I said if my Chargers don't get nobody on offense in the first round, I'll be fine with them selecting Mike Green out of Marshall. I understand he was at a small school, but he still balled out. And I love the LaJohntay Western pick, receiver out of Colorado, underrated receiver. I think the Ravens had a good draft to get them an A. Next, I got the Detroit Lions. Their biggest needs were edge, offensive line, safety, D-line, receiver. Tyreek Williams, defensive tackle, Ohio State was their first pick. Tate Ratledge, guard, Georgia. Isaac Tesla, wide receiver, Arkansas. Miles Frazier, guard, LSU. Dan Jackson, safety out of Georgia. Dominic Lovett, wide receiver out of Georgia. And Armand Hassan, defensive end, Boise State. I give them a C-. Not really in love with Detroit's picks. But, I mean, they're already a good team, so maybe it adds a little bit depth to what they already have, but I give them a C-. Washington Commanders, biggest needs, edge, corner, receiver, safety, offensive line. They selected Josh Cornell, offensive tackle, Oregon. Trey Amos, cornerback, Ole Miss. Jalen Lane, receiver out of Virginia Tech. Kane Medrano, linebacker, UCLA. Ja'Cory Cross Merritt, running back, Arizona. I give them a C+. They didn't have that many picks. Decent players they selected. Nothing real too crazy. So I give them a C+. Buffalo Bills, biggest needs, corner, D-line, receiver, edge, safety. Maxwell Harrison, cornerback out of Kentucky, was their first round pick. I love that pick. TJ Sanders, defensive tackle, South Carolina. Landon Jackson, defensive end, Arkansas. Deion Walker, defensive tackle out of Kentucky. Jardon Hancock, defensive back out of Ohio State. Jackson Hayes, tight end out of Georgia Tech. Darren Strong, cornerback out of Virginia. Chase Linden, offensive tackle UConn. Caden Prather, wide receiver out of Maryland. I give the Bills an A-. Like I said, they filled their team needs really. I think that, like I said, I love the Maxwell Harrison pick. I think the Buffalo Bills had a pretty good draft. Next up, I got the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. Select Jahad Campbell, linebacker out of Alabama. Andrew McBoa, defensive back out of Texas. Ty Robinson, defensive tackle in Nebraska. Mac McWilliams, cornerback at UCF. Samuel Mondon, linebacker Georgia. Drew Kendall, center Boston College. Kyle McCord, quarterback out of Syracuse. Miles Hinton, offensive tackle Michigan. Cameron Williams, offensive tackle Texas. I give them a B. Like I said, they didn't have a real crazy draft, but they selected players that fit them. And they also selected a player out of Georgia. I know they had to do it, but I love the Jahad Campbell pick. That the Eagles' defense is going to be really good for years to come with Jahad Campbell, Cooper DeJean, Quinyon Mitchell. You got the boys in the middle, Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis. You even got Nolan Smith, Nakobe Dean. That defense is going to be very good for years to come. And lastly, you got the Kansas City Chiefs. Their biggest needs, D-line, offensive line, edge, safety, receiver. I give them a B-. They selected Josh Simmons, offensive tackle, Ohio State. Armanian Narn Lott, defensive tackle, Tennessee. Ashton Gillett, defensive end out of Louisville. Nolan Williams, cornerback out of Cal. Jalen Royals, wide receiver out of Utah State. Jeffrey Bassa, linebacker out of Oregon. Rashad Smith, running back out of SMU. They fit some of their needs. Like I said, I give them a B-, C+. Like I said, I don't think the Chiefs had a crazy draft like the Eagles, but they selected players that fit their culture, their organization, and help them get back to another Super Bowl. So those are my grades for the 2025 NFL Draft. Let me know in the comments. Do you agree with them? My team, the team I feel like won the draft, in my opinion, I think it's the Jacksonville Jaguars. The team I think lost the NFL draft is the Miami Dolphins. I really don't understand what they did, to be honest. But I think the Jacksonville Jaguars, I think, won the NFL draft, and I think the Miami Dolphins pretty much lost it. But thank you for tuning in for episode 91 of Cameron Sports Podcast. It's your host, Cameron Lindsay. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn on post notifications. I'll catch y'all for another episode. Y'all take care.